Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My wife and I have been married for over 4 years now, and we had a baby a few months ago. Now, we were both settled well before dating, and our financial situation isn't too bad. The both of us need to work. So, when my wife got pregnant a year back, we both got to talking. And she said she wants to be a stay at home mom and completely focus on her child. I wanted to be sure of what she had in her mind, so we had a detailed discussion about how long she's planning to stay and if she'd be able to handle being unemployed mentally. Because, as far as I know, she's been a workaholic and off days drive her crazy. But she assured me that it's what she wants, so she left her job when it was too hard for her to go into work. We ended up having an amazing daughter, and my wife's behavior was a little on the short-tempered side. But I thought it's just hormones. But it's been over 6 months now, and she's still very much irritated and acts up on the littlest of things. I was at my limit too, with being at work all day and then taking care of the baby at night because she took care of her all day. So I sat her down and told her that she needs to tone it down a little as it's getting on my nerves. And we're both in this together, so there's no point in chewing me out on everything. She told me that she's been feeling a little too overwhelmed as her entire life is about taking care of the baby. She said she's not complaining, but she feels like any order or routine is missing in her life, and she needed something she had full control over. So we talked a little bit more, and I asked her if taking care of the groceries and other stuff, which I was in charge of so far, would help her calm her down, as those are routine things that she could plan ahead and fully control. It wasn't anything big, and it might seem to some of y'all like I dumped more responsibility on her, but it was her idea to begin with. Well, I gave her the credit card I used for essentials and didn't really think much about it until I received the bill about 2 days ago. It was specifically for essentials like grocery and medicinal bills, so the bill was fairly constant all this time. But this time the card was close to maxing out, and no matter how much I thought about it, there's no way it could go $2,000 over the usual spending when we didn't have any medical emergencies in the last few months. So I decided to look through the statements online and was shocked to see what she's been buying online. I actually had to Google it to believe that it's a genuine product and not a product. My wife was buying blood on the internet. Specifically cattle blood that she's been importing from overseas. I couldn't think of anything she'd need the blood for, and everything that came up on the Google search was related to food. But there's no way I could let myself believe that she's been feeding me blood all this time, so I decided to clear it with her before acting up. When I went home, I asked her why she buys cattle blood, and to my horror, she confirmed that she cooks with it. I asked her why she would ever use such an ingredient because no matter how I thought about it, eating blood was beyond my imagination. I've heard some countries use it, but not us. Not my family at least, and my wife should know that. So she told me that I should calm down, it's not a big deal. She said that she's been looking up international recipes and saw people make blood sausages. So she tried it once and they turned out to be amazing. She also said she used it in some soups too, and that upon researching she came to know how nutritionally beneficial blood is. But nothing she said past the blood sausages registered in my mind because all I was remembering was the time I thought her cooking had improved. And I'm grateful to have an amazing wife. And it turns out all this time she was feeding me blood. I was weirded out by the truth to the point that I gagged and vomited. I asked her why she couldn't ask me before experimenting with my food. And she said I shouldn't react this way just because it's not something we eat commonly. She used the compliment I gave her over the sausages as an example of how the taboo is in my mind, while my body likes it, but nothing about vomiting my guts out screamed healthy body to me. I couldn't even look at her face without being angry. We had a huge fight about it, and if it wasn't for the baby crying, I think we'd still be fighting. Anyway, that was 2 days ago, and I thought I'd be okay, but I've realized the problem is bigger than her lying to me. I feel like I've lost my trust in her. And for the past 2 days, I couldn't eat anything without being suspicious. Even the sight of ketchup nauseates me now. I really thought that with time I'd be okay and I need to let go of being so suspicious. But then my wife went ahead and pulled another stunt. She used the blood she had left in our dinner tonight, and somehow the dish wasn't red, so I ate it. After I finished with it, she asked me how it was, and I said it was okay. That's when she pulled an aha and said that I actually don't hate blood, and it's my mind playing tricks on me because what I ate had blood in it. That was my limit. I could have overseen her duping me once as a misunderstanding, but doing this to me after finding out I can't stand it was another thing. I got so mad that I left the house and told her I never want to see her again. Right now, I'm crashing on my friend's couch, and after contemplating on what happened for a while, I've come to the decision that there's no way I'd be able to go back. I could never actually bring myself to trust her again, and I don't see a scenario where we can live together without me eating with her. I don't know if I'm crazy or just overreacting, but I think I can't be in a marriage where I can't trust the person I live with. Am I being an a-hole by reacting this way? My wife has been calling me for a while, but I wasn't ready to talk to her yet, so I ignored all her calls and texts. I only went home today because of my daughter, and if it wasn't for the kid, I don't think I would have gone back for a long time. Anyway, the moment I went there, she started screaming at me, saying, "How can I be so selfish to leave for 3 days without answering her texts?" She said that I had no idea how hard it's been for her to take care of my child, all by herself, especially because the kid was crying even more over missing me. She said she had left me so many texts asking me to come back so I can pull my weight of being a father, even if I'm mad, but that only aggravated me more. How could she talk about me being a bad father when I was actually away because of her? She didn't even apologize and still shows no sign of any kind of remorse. What pissed me off the most was her calling me selfish when she was the one who made me eat something I specifically told her goes against my beliefs and religion, all so she could prove herself right. I was so sick of it that I retaliated by saying, "I'm back to pick up my daughter and I'm leaving here permanently." But things only ended up escalating when she refused to let me take my daughter. We fought like rabid animals, screaming our throats sore, and I left the house again. It seems like there's no end to our fights, and there's no way we can make this work. My wife texted me today after a week of no contact and asked me to come over so we could talk about our relationship and what we need to do going forward. Both of us knew that we needed to make a decision after discussing our current standings in this relationship, as we owe it to our daughter to figure our shit out. So I came over to the house instead of going to the room I've booked at a motel. We talked about what went wrong, and I told her that I was on edge already because of how short-tempered she had been since her pregnancy. I was trying really hard all this time to remember that it's just stress, but her putting blood in my food after she saw my reaction to it before and after I specifically told her I don't want to eat it, I lost my trust in her and our relationship. I told her that there's no way moving forward that I could devote myself to this marriage fully, and I want to separate before it's too late for us to realize this was a mistake. She also said that she's feeling jealous that I still have my work life while she is reduced to just being a mom. She said that if I can give her another chance, she wants to go back to work as being a full-time mom is really stressing her out, and having a work life would help her be better. So I told her I needed some time to think this through. What do you all think about this? Hey, all. I posted here about how I found out my wife was feeding me something I had no idea about, and we were discussing getting a divorce. Well, here's an update to that. I don't know if I should be sad or happy here. I did try to recover our marriage one last time, and my wife went back to work. We hired a nanny and made sure our daughter was safe, but no matter how many life changes we made, my wife was driving me nuts. Nothing was good enough for her because she complained about being worried for the kid at work and then stressed about work when she was at home. On the other hand, I was uneasy in her presence and avoided eating anything she gave me that led to even more fights. In the end, it was inevitable to avoid reality, and we had to accept the fact that our marriage was pretty much over. Well, I'm a single dad now. We ended up getting joint custody of my daughter, and I get to have her with me on weekends, while my wife takes care of her from Monday to Wednesday. Sundays are alternative, and even though it's hard and complicated situation, I'm actually happy that we got to figure this out early on and not after our kid was too old and familiarized with a stable family. At least this way she'd grow up to have separated parents as her only reality. NTA, wife is totally the a-hole. It's like forcefully feeding chicken to a vegan or a vegetarian person, and that's horrible. She should have respected your boundaries. NTA, you're not the a-hole. I understand the first time you found out it was forgivable, but her trying to do it the second time is absolutely unforgivable. When my husband, G, 29 male, and I, 31 female, were still dating, my cousin died and I came into a large inheritance. It was enough to pay off my student loans, get a newer car, invest into some stocks, and I still have money left. I decided to fulfill my dream of owning acreage for a peaceful getaway from the city. I ended up finding a gorgeous 60-plus acre plot of land for a very reasonable price within 2 hours of where we live, and best of all, it had a little house on it. We ended up moving in while we were still dating. The house needed a lot of work, so I hired professionals to do most of the remodeling, rewiring the house, replacing the roof, updating the plumbing, etc. And then me and G did the easier tasks, replacing the flooring, painting, replacing broken windows, etc. To save money, I paid for all the materials to remodel the house and never charged him any kind of rent to compensate him for his time, which allowed him to use the extra money to pay off some of his debts and put some money away. It took about a year, but we got it done, and the house is adorable. We have been married for a couple of years, and yesterday he was talking about how he wants to have a storage shed built on the property because I'm pregnant and the room we use for storage is going to be the nursery. I encouraged him to rent a storage unit instead, but he did not like the idea because in the long run it would be cheaper to invest in a storage shed and just take the money out of our joint account. I then offered to pay for it out of my personal account, which is leftover inheritance money. We contacted a local professional and started the process of having it built. Then, a few days ago, he asked me why I insisted my money was used to pay for it. I said that it was my house and he should not have to pay out of his pocket to maintain it. He retorted, saying that it was our house. He helped remodel it. He has lived in it for more than 4 years, and we will be raising our child in this house. I reminded him that I bought the house, paid for all the work to be done, and I pay the property taxes. He then got mad and said something like, "So I don't get to have a home that is mine?" I fought on what he said for a moment and reminded him that he came into this marriage with a large savings account and told him that it would be enough to pay for a down payment, and said he could get a mortgage, rent it out, and let the tenants pay it off so he would have a house if we divorced. This seemed to piss him off more because we went into another room and he is still ignoring me. Then I got a call from my father-in-law and he told me that he spoke with G about the situation and said that I was in the wrong and that all property between a man and wife is shared and dividing things into his and hers is harmful. Then today I spoke to my brother about it, and he thinks I'm putting my assets above my husband. So, Reddit, AITA, we both signed a prenup before we got married. Also, he was compensated for his labor and time. The money he has, that I suggested he invest in the house, was saved before our marriage because he lived with me and I paid all the bills. I live in a community property state. If he contributes anything to the property financially, he has a right to it if we divorce, regardless of the prenup. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for their responses. It was very helpful to see so many different viewpoints on my predicament. I had a heart to heart with my husband, and we both discussed our feelings on the matter. I reminded him that unlike me, he grew up in a stable, financially comfortable home, and I explained that my motivations did not come from a lack of love for him, but anxiety from mother and my financial struggles after my parents divorced. He said that although he knows that it was important to me to legally be the owner of the house, our conversation about the shed left him feeling like he has no control over our family home, and like he is a temporary guest instead of my husband. Ultimately, after talking it out, we agreed that the best course of action is to purchase a second home together with our joint funds and make that our primary residence. My house and land will be used as a weekend getaway instead of our primary residence. While I am a little sad that I will spend less time on my property, I'm very happy that we found a compromise which allows me to protect my assets and gives him more of a feeling of connection and equal ownership to our marital home. YTA for how you handled it. It's obvious it's your house legally, but you didn't have to make him feel like the place he's living isn't his home, too. Moreover, the divorce comment was totally unnecessary and particularly cruel. What was the point of it? To make him feel even worse? It's pretty messed up. YTA, you're right, but you can still be the a-hole. The moment you mention in case of divorce, you told him you don't think this will last, that all the help he has done and all the time he has spent with you is temporary. This was an argument over a shed. He wanted to help. You said no and brought up divorce. Legally, you're right. You're still the a-hole. I, 26 male, am a single father to my son, 4 male. My son has the most beautiful curly hair ever that he inherited from his mother, who is Afro-Latina. I'm white. My family all has straight hair except my mother, who has curls too. Hers are way looser than my son's, though she doesn't really know what to do with his hair. He's very tender-headed, so we usually keep it short. For the past few months, he's refused to get his hair cut. I thought he was getting nervous because the barber's is usually packed, but I tried to do it at home and he freaked out. So now his hair is about chin length. I've taken some classes and used YouTube to care for it, and he loves his hairstyles. My girlfriend, 22 female, is black, and she helps me with his hair too. I recently had to work late, and my sister, 32, was the only available person to watch him. She was taking her family to the zoo, so my son was going along with them. When I picked up my son, his hair was straightened. I have never used heat on his hair besides a blow dryer with a diffuser, and I immediately freaked out. I asked my sister what happened, and she said that she tried to brush his hair before they went out and it looked messy, so she straightened it. I have made it clear before that no one can brush my boy's hair but me and my mother, and heat is not allowed. She said she forgot, she couldn't brush it, and she didn't want him outside looking messy. I told her she should have just tied his hair up in a ponytail or bun after that. We ended up arguing, and I took my son and left. My son was very upset, and I had to call my girlfriend for advice. She came over, and we managed to revert his curls with minimal damage. Now my sister and her husband are demanding that I apologize. They're saying that I had no right to fight with them after they babysat my son and took him out. I honestly don't know if they're right or wrong because I've asked 10 people for their opinions, majority family, and they're split 50-50 on my side or hers. Everyone who agrees with her is saying that I should have reminded her of what to do with my son's hair when I dropped him off because I shouldn't have expected a white lady with white kids to know any better. My son's hair was in cute finger coils done by my girlfriend when I dropped him off. AITA? NTA. Who puts heat on a child's hair, especially when it's not even their child? NTA. White people know damn well we don't know what to do with non-white hair, even if you had never mentioned it. If she wanted to do something to his hair, she should have at least called and asked for advice.